Hey there. Ready to jump into something really interesting? We're going to be talking about the future of humanity.
Well, at least the numbers behind it.
Right, the numbers.
Exactly.
You've given me a ton of info on the latest UN population projections,
Yeah.
and some of this stuff is uh, pretty amazing.
It's really interesting stuff.
Did you know that the world population might actually peak this century?
It's a huge shift in thinking.
I mean,
Yeah,
not something you hear every day, right?
definitely not.
Just a decade ago.
Yeah.
The UN estimated there was only like a 30% chance of a population peak within this century. And now they're saying it's like an 80% chance.
Right. They're putting that probability at 80% now.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We're going to explore what's driving this change, what it means for different parts of the world,
Right.
and what it might actually mean for you.
Okay, so the UN projects that the world's population will hit 10.3 billion
Whoa.
in the mid-2080s.
Okay.
Before it starts to decline.
Wow.
And that peak is happening sooner and at a lower number than we previously thought.
10.3 billion people.
Yeah, it's a big number.
That's basically adding another 2 billion people to the planet.
It is, yeah.
It makes you wonder what factors are even contributing to this peak.
Well, declining fertility rates are a major driver.
Okay.
We're seeing this globally.
Yeah.
But it's really pronounced in large countries like China.
Mm-hmm.
For example, China's population is projected to decrease by 786 million by 2100.
Wow.
That's almost the entire population of Europe.
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine the impact
Yeah.
on their economy and social structure.
Think about it.
Wild.
Yeah.
On the flip side,
Yeah.
we have healthcare advancements that have increased life expectancy.
Of course.
It's amazing that we're living longer.
Yeah.
But it also requires us to think differently about things like retirement planning
Uh-huh.
and elder care.
Right.
These things we don't always think about.
Definitely. Those are things that we need to plan for.
We can't ignore the impact of international migration either.
Absolutely.
It's attenuating population decline in countries like Australia and Canada,
Uh-huh.
while driving growth in others.
That's right.
I mean, how countries manage and integrate newcomers.
It's going to be crucial.
Yeah, absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
It's like a global puzzle with everyone moving around.
Right.
The UN report actually breaks down these global population trends into 3 distinct groups.
Okay.
The first group
Yeah.
consists of countries that have already hit their peak population.
Right.
They've got 28% of the world's population right now.
Uh-huh.
But that's expected to drop
Okay.
by 14% in the next 30 years.
Wow, that's a big drop.
This includes countries like Japan, Germany, and Russia.
Yeah, some big names on that list.
For sure.
So within this group,
Yeah.
you'll find a variety of experiences.
Okay.
For example, take Lithuania.
Okay.
They're projected to see their population drop by more than 20%
Wow.
in the next 3 decades.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
how these countries are managing this decline.
Right.
And its effects
Yeah.
on everything from their workforce
Yeah.
to their social systems.
It's a big question.
It really is
It is.
a pretty stark reality.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are the specific reasons
Well,
behind this decline?
declining fertility rates are certainly a key factor.
Okay.
In these countries, we're seeing fertility levels fall below the replacement level
Uh-huh.
of 2.1 births per woman.
Okay.
And some countries like
Yeah.
China, Italy, South Korea, and Spain
Interesting.
are experiencing ultra-low fertility
Okay.
with fewer than 1.4 births per woman.
Wow.
Yeah. So this
What's that?
trend
Okay.
contributes to population decline
Yeah.
and raises concerns about long-term sustainability.
It's interesting to consider the reasons for these low fertility rates.
Yeah.
Is it mainly driven by economic factors?
Wow.
Or are there others social and cultural shifts?
It's a combination of factors. I mean, while economic concerns are certainly part of the equation,
Yeah.
there are also broader societal shifts happening.
Like what?
Well, think about changing attitudes towards family size,
Okay.
the evolving career aspirations,
What?
particularly among women,
Right.
and evolving gender roles.
And it's not just about individual choices, right?
No, not at all.
Factors like access to affordable childcare,
Of course.
parental leave policies,
Right.
and overall support for working families
Mm-hmm.
all play a role in influencing people's decisions
Yeah,
about having children.
absolutely.
I mean, it seems like each country has a unique set of circumstances
Yeah,
shaping these trends.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that within each country,
Yeah.
you'll find variations based on location,
Okay.
socioeconomic status,
Right.
and cultural background.
It's complex.
It is. It's a complex picture.
Yeah.
The report also points out that emigration from countries already experiencing low fertility levels
Okay.
is further contributing to their population decline.
Interesting.
It's this complex interplay of factors
Yeah.
that's constantly evolving.
It's like one demographic trend
Yeah.
influencing another,
Uh-huh.
creating this ripple effect
Right. Yeah.
across the globe.
A domino effect.
We've talked about declining fertility rates.
Yeah.
But what about life expectancy in these countries?
That's a good question.
Is it increasing, decreasing, or staying the same?
Well, globally, people are living longer than ever,
Right.
and that trend holds true even in countries experiencing population decline.
Okay.
As of 2024,
Uh-huh.
the average life expectancy in countries with peaked populations is 78.8 years,
Wow.
up from 70.9 in 1995.
Okay.
That's almost a decade added
Yeah.
to the average lifespan.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and largely due to advances in medicine,
Okay.
healthcare,
Right.
and public health initiatives.
It's a positive development for sure.
It is, yeah.
But as we've touched on, it also presents new challenges.
Right.
A longer lifespan means an increasingly elderly population,
Uh-huh.
potentially putting a strain on healthcare systems,
Yes.
Social Security,
Right.
and other support systems.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are there countries doing a particularly good job?
Well, some countries are definitely ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Japan, for instance,
Okay.
has been dealing with an aging population
Yeah.
for a while now
Huh.
and has implemented some innovative policies.
Oh, wow. Like what?
Well, they've invested heavily in robotics and technology for elder care.
Interesting.
They've encouraged older people to stay active in the workforce,
Okay.
and they've even adapted their infrastructure to be more elderly friendly.
Those are some pretty creative solutions.
They are.
It sounds like they're really trying to tune this challenge into an opportunity.
Yeah, they are.
Are there any lessons other countries can learn from Japan's experience
Absolutely.
as they face similar demographic shifts?
I think Japan's focus on innovation and adapting to the needs of an aging population
Yeah.
provides a valuable model for other countries.
For sure.
It's not just about caring for the elderly.
Right.
It's also about recognizing their contributions
Uh-huh.
and keeping them engaged in society.
It's a whole new way of thinking about aging.
That is.
So we've covered a lot of ground
Yeah, we have.
on countries that have already hit their peak population.
Right.
Their populations are declining.
Yeah.
They're experiencing ultra-low fertility rates.
Right.
And they're grappling with the challenges of an aging population.
Yes,
It paints a pretty complex picture
it does.
of the demographic landscape.
It's a complex and evolving landscape.
Really is.
Yeah.
And it provides some valuable insights
Yeah.
for the next group of countries
Okay.
we'll discuss.
Uh-huh.
Those expected to reach their peak
Yeah.
within the next 30 years.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to this next group.
All right. They're sort of in a transition zone, right?
Yeah, you could say that's still experiencing population growth,
Mm-hmm.
but on the verge of a potential decline.
Right.
What are some of the key characteristics
Yeah.
that define this group?
This group includes countries like Brazil, Iran, Turkey, and Vietnam.
Okay,
They're all at a later stage
okay.
of what we call the demographic transition,
Uh-huh.
meaning they've already seen
Yeah.
significant drops in fertility rates,
Right.
but they haven't quite peaked yet.
Right.
So they're in this kind of balancing act,
Interesting.
preparing for both a growing
Yeah.
and potentially aging population
Okay.
in the coming years.
It sounds like a tricky situation to navigate.
It can be, yeah.
What kind of population growth are we expecting to see in this group
Well,
before they reach their peak?
the UN projects that this group's combined population will peak at 875 million
Okay.
by the late 2040s,
All right.
up from 825 million in 2024.
Okay.
So that's a relatively modest increase
Okay.
compared to the massive growth we're seeing in some regions.
It's still a significant number of people to accommodate, though,
It is, yeah.
especially considering they need to manage
Right.
both the demands of a growing population
Yeah,
and the long-term implications of
Yeah.
an eventual decline.
absolutely. It's a balancing act.
It is.
And it requires them to make smart investments now.
Yeah.
Take education, for example.
Okay.
They need to expand access to quality education
Uh-huh.
to meet the needs of a growing population.
Right.
But they also need to adapt their curriculums
Yeah.
to prepare young people for the jobs of the future.
It's like trying to hit a moving target.
It is.
The world is changing so rapidly.
Yes.
And the skills needed to succeed are constantly evolving.
You got it.
Yeah.
And healthcare is another area that requires this kind of dual focus.
Uh-huh.
These countries need to expand access to healthcare services for their growing populations.
Right.
But they also need to prepare
Yeah.
for the increased demands of an aging population down the line. It's complex.
It's a complex challenge.
Yeah.
It requires a long-term vision
Yeah.
and strategic planning.
It sounds like these countries are facing a unique set of pressures.
They are.
They're still dealing with the challenges of population growth
Yeah.
while also having to think about
Uh-huh.
the potential impacts of a future decline.
Exactly.
Are there any specific policies or strategies they
Yeah.
can implement?
There are a few key things they can do.
Okay.
Investing in education and skills training,
Right.
as we discussed, is crucial.
Yeah.
They also need to create a business-friendly environment
Okay.
to attract investment
Uh-huh.
and create jobs.
Okay.
And strong social safety nets
Right.
are essential to support their populations through these transitions.
So it's about laying the groundwork
It is.
for a more prosperous and equitable future,
Exactly.
regardless of whether their populations are growing or declining.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about being adaptable.
And forward-thinking in their approach to managing these demographic shifts.
So we've talked about declining fertility rates
Right.
and the unique pressures facing countries in this transitional phase.
Uh-huh.
But I'm curious about the bigger picture.
Okay.
What are the broader implications of these projected population peaks,
Yeah, that's a good question.
particularly as these countries move
Yeah.
from growth to potential decline? What challenges and opportunities might they face?
That's where things get really interesting.
Ah.
And that's what we'll dive into after the break.
Okay, can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing those countries projected to hit their peak population
Right.
within the next 30 years.
Yes.
Now let's explore what might happen after they reach that peak.
It makes you wonder if they're destined to follow the same path
Yeah.
as countries that have already peaked,
Uh-huh.
facing population decline,
Right.
aging populations,
Yeah.
and all the complexities that come with those trends.
It is a trend.
Is that the inevitable future for all countries?
We're seeing it in many parts of the world,
Right.
largely driven by those long-term factors we've been discussing.
Yeah.
You know, declining fertility rates
Yeah.
and increasing life expectancy.
Okay.
But the specifics of how this plays out
Yeah.
will depend on each country's unique circumstances.
So while the overall trend might be similar,
Yeah.
the path each country takes could be very different.
Exactly.
Okay.
Some might experience a rapid decline after their peak,
Okay.
while others see a more gradual plateau.
Okay.
Some might mitigate the decline through immigration,
Okay.
while others might not.
So let's get into the specifics.
Okay?
What are some of the potential consequences of population decline?
Well, one major concern is economic.
Okay.
A shrinking workforce can lead to slower economic growth.
That makes sense.
You know, there are fewer people to produce goods and services.
Right.
This can also strain social security systems
Uh-huh.
as fewer workers contribute to support. Yeah.
A growing number of retirees.
It's like a chain reaction
It is.
impacting multiple aspects of society.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just about economics.
Yeah.
Population decline can have social and cultural implications as well.
Right.
Some communities might struggle to maintain their vibrancy and identity if their population shrinks significantly.
Yeah.
Think about rural communities that rely on a younger workforce.
Okay.
What happens when those younger generations move away
Right.
in search of better opportunities?
It's like the very fabric of those communities starts to unravel.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Then there are potential political implications.
Okay.
A country with a declining population
Uh-huh.
might have less influence on the global stage.
So it's fascinating how something as fundamental as population size can have such far-reaching consequences,
Absolutely.
touching everything from economics and social structures
Right.
to a country's political standing in the world. It highlights how interconnected everything is
Yeah.
and why it's crucial for countries to be aware of these trends
Okay.
and plan accordingly.
So what can these countries do to prepare for the possibility?
Well, there are a few things to consider.
Okay.
A population decline.
Yeah. Are there policies or strategies that can help mitigate?
One option is to encourage immigration.
Okay.
which can help offset population decline
Okay.
and bring in new skills and perspectives.
Right.
However, it's essential to manage immigration carefully.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Because how do you make sure that goes smoothly?
To ensure newcomers are integrated effectively.
Right.
And the benefits are shared widely.
Yeah. It's not just about opening the doors.
Right.
It's about creating a welcoming and inclusive environment
Exactly.
where everyone can thrive.
Another strategy is investing in education and training
Right.
to improve the productivity of the existing workforce.
Makes sense.
This can help offset
Uh-huh.
the economic impacts of a shrinking workforce.
So it's about maximizing the potential
It is.
of the people you have.
Right.
What about encouraging people to stay in the workforce longer?
That's another approach some countries are exploring,
Okay.
maybe by raising the retirement age
Okay.
or creating more flexible work arrangements.
Yeah, for sure.
Some are even experimenting with financial incentives
Oh, wow.
for those who delay retirement.
Interesting.
There are many different options,
Yeah.
and the best ones will vary
Right.
depending on the specific context.
It sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all solution,
Right.
but there are proactive steps countries can take
Yes.
to adapt and thrive,
Uh-huh.
even with population decline.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about being creative
Yeah.
and recognizing that population decline isn't inherently a bad thing.
Right.
It can present opportunities as well.
What kind of opportunities?
Well, a smaller population can mean less pressure on resources and the environment,
Go.
potentially leading to a more sustainable lifestyle.
That's an interesting perspective.
It is.
It's like a chance to rethink our relationship with the planet
Right.
and create a more balanced way of life.
It could be.
Yeah.
And it might also lead to greater social cohesion
Okay.
as communities become smaller and more close-knit.
So while there are undoubtedly challenges associated with population decline,
Yeah,
there are also potential benefits.
absolutely.
It's all about how you approach it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our final group of countries.
Okay.
Those projected to keep growing through 2054.
These are the countries bucking the trend.
You could say that.
This group includes some major players like India, Nigeria, and the U.S., right?
That's right.
Okay.
It's a diverse mix of countries,
Okay.
but they share one commonality.
Okay, what's that?
Their populations are projected to continue growing for at least the next 3 decades.
So what's driving this continued growth?
Well,
Is it all about high fertility rates?
fertility is definitely a factor, particularly in certain regions.
Okay.
For instance, many sub-Saharan African countries
Mm.
have high fertility rates,
Okay.
contributing to their rapid population growth.
Okay.
But it's not the only factor.
What else?
Migration is also playing a role in some countries,
Okay.
like the U.S., Canada, and Australia.
It's fascinating how these demographic forces
It is.
are playing out differently
Yeah.
in various parts of the world.
It really highlights the complexity of these trends. It's
Yeah.
not as simple as high fertility equals growth
Right.
or low fertility equals decline.
Exactly.
There's a whole interplay of factors at work.
Let's break down this group further,
Yeah.
starting with sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
What's the outlook for population growth in that region?
Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to have the most rapid population growth
Okay.
of any region globally.
Wow.
Their combined population is expected to increase by a staggering 79%
Really?
over the next 30 years.
That's a lot.
To put that in perspective, that's like adding the entire population of Europe and North America combined to
Oh.
the region.
That's a massive increase.
It is.
What are the implications of such rapid growth?
Well, it presents both opportunities and challenges.
Okay.
On the one hand,
Yeah.
it can strain resources and infrastructure,
Uh-huh.
making it harder to provide basic services
Right.
like education, healthcare, and sanitation.
Right.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
a young and growing population can be a source of economic dynamism and innovation
Okay.
if the right investments are made.
So it sounds like a pivotal moment for these countries
It is.
to harness what's often called
Yeah,
the demographic dividend.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They need to invest in their human capital,
Uh-huh.
create jobs,
Right.
and build a foundation for a sustainable future.
Yeah.
If they can achieve that,
Yeah.
they have incredible potential for economic and social progress.
But it sounds like there's a risk of things going the other way
That's the challenge.
if they don't manage this growth effectively.
It's a race against time
Yeah.
to create opportunities for this young and growing population.
Uh-huh.
If they fall behind,
Yeah.
it could lead to social unrest,
Right.
poverty, and instability.
So it's a high-stakes situation
It is.
with potentially huge implications for the region and the world.
It is. And it's something we all need to be paying attention to.
Okay, we've talked about sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
What about the other countries in this group
Yeah.
projected to keep growing through 2054?
Uh-huh.
What are some key trends we're seeing there?
Well, as we mentioned, migration is a key driver of population growth in some countries.
Okay.
Take Canada, for example.
Okay.
They rely heavily on immigration to sustain their population growth.
Okay.
They have a relatively low fertility rate,
Good.
so immigration helps offset that
Okay.
and keep their population growing.
So it's interesting how different countries use different strategies
It is.
to manage their population trends.
Yes. It shows there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Each country needs to find solutions
Yeah.
that work for their unique circumstances.
With all this talk of population growth and decline,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to get caught up in the numbers.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are some of the human stories
Yeah, that's an important question.
behind these statistics?
That often gets overlooked in these big picture discussions.
Yeah.
The reality is,
What does it mean for individuals and families living through these demographic shifts?
these demographic trends are impacting people's lives in profound ways.
Yeah.
For example, in countries with rapidly growing populations,
Uh-huh.
families might struggle to provide for their children
Okay.
and access essential services.
Makes sense.
In countries with declining populations,
Right.
young people might be leaving rural communities in
Mhm.
search of better opportunities,
Okay.
leaving behind a sense of loss and decline in those areas.
It's like two sides of the same coin,
It is.
each presenting unique challenges and opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crucial to remember that these aren't just statistics.
Right.
They represent people's lives.
Well said.
Thank you.
It's a good reminder to keep the human element at the forefront
Yeah,
as we continue to explore these complex demographic trends.
I agree.
Okay.
Speaking of exploring,
Yeah.
there's another fascinating aspect of this UN report I think we should delve into.
Okay, what's that?
For the first time, it includes something called
Okay.
probabilistic projections of net international migration.
Whoa.
It's a fancy way of saying
Okay.
they're taking into account the uncertainty inherent in migration patterns
Okay.
when making these population projections.
That sounds like a significant development.
It is.
Migration is such a complex and unpredictable phenomenon.
It is.
It makes sense to factor that uncertainty into the equation.
Right.
It's not like we can predict with certainty who will move where and when.
Exactly.
Right.
And it allows for a more nuanced and realistic view of how migration might influence population trends in the future.
So how does it work?
Or-
Are they just throwing darts at a map and hoping for the best?
Not quite.
Okay.
They're using sophisticated statistical models
Okay.
to estimate the likelihood of different migration scenarios.
Okay.
These models consider historical migration patterns,
Okay.
economic factors,
Oh.
political events,
Right.
and a whole range of other variables.
So it's like a more data-driven crystal ball,
You could say that.
providing a glimpse into the range of possibilities
Right.
without making definitive predictions.
That's a good way to put it.
What are some of the key insights they've gained from these probabilistic projections?
One key finding
Okay.
is that migration will likely play an increasingly important role
Okay.
in shaping population trends in the coming decades,
Makes sense.
especially in certain regions,
Okay. Like where?
for example, in Europe,
Okay.
where fertility rates are low
Right.
and populations are aging. Migration is projected to be a major driver of population growth,
Okay.
or at least a mitigating factor in population decline
Yeah.
in the future.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
If you're not having enough babies, you need to find other ways
right.
to keep your population stable.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
migration can also help address labor shortages
Okay.
and fill specific skill gaps
Right.
in certain industries.
So it's not just about numbers.
Right.
It's about finding the right people with the right skills
Precisely.
to contribute to society.
And that's why it's so important to have well-managed immigration policies
Right.
that are both fair and effective.
It sounds like these probabilistic projections
Yeah,
are giving policymakers a valuable tool
they are.
to plan for the future
Mm-hmm.
and make more informed decisions about immigration.
They are. And it's
Right.
just one example of how demographic data can be used
Yeah.
to address some of the most pressing challenges facing our world.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Exploring the UN's latest population projections.
Yeah.
Delving into the different demographic trends,
Mm-hmm.
shaping our world,
Yeah.
and even touching on the human stories
Yeah.
behind those trends.
Absolutely.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And while we've covered a lot of ground,
Yeah.
it's clear that this is just the beginning
Right.
of a much larger conversation.
A conversation we all need to be a part of.
Before we wrap up, there's one more aspect of the UN report we need to discuss.
Okay.
The specific policy recommendations they offer.
Right. They've provided a lot of data and analysis,
Yeah.
but they haven't left us hanging.
Okay, good.
They've also outlined some concrete steps
Okay.
that countries can take to address these demographic challenges and opportunities.
So let's dive into those recommendations.
Okay, let's do it.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
We've explored the UN's population projections,
Right.
the challenges and opportunities they present,
Yeah.
and now it's time to get practical.
Okay, let's do it.
The UN report doesn't just drop these mind-blowing statistics on us.
Right.
They actually offer some concrete policy recommendations.
So they recognize there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
Oh.
Every country has its unique context,
Uh-huh.
its own set of challenges and opportunities.
So it's more like a toolbox than a prescription.
Exactly. The report provides a framework and a set of tools that countries can adapt to their
Right.
specific needs and circumstances.
Okay, so let's open up this toolbox and see what's inside.
All right.
What are some of the key recommendations that stand out to you?
One major theme that runs through the report
Okay.
is the importance of investing in human capital,
Okay.
especially in countries with young and growing populations.
Makes sense.
This means prioritizing education,
Right.
healthcare,
Uh-huh.
and skills training,
Okay.
giving people the tools they need to succeed
Yeah.
in the 21st century economy.
It's about empowering people,
It is.
not just to survive,
Yeah.
but to thrive.
Absolutely.
And when individuals thrive,
Yeah,
it benefits society as a whole.
absolutely.
The report also emphasizes addressing gender inequality.
Right. Empowering women and girls
Yeah.
is crucial
Yeah.
for achieving sustainable development,
Okay.
both in terms of population
Yeah.
and overall well-being.
This means ensuring equal access to education and healthcare,
Yes.
promoting women's economic participation,
Uh-huh.
and eliminating all forms of discrimination and violence against women.
You got it.
It's about creating a level playing field
It is.
and giving women and girls the same opportunities as men and boys.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about fairness.
No.
It's also about smart economics.
Right.
When women are empowered,
Yeah.
economies grow,
Mm-hmm.
health outcomes improve,
Right.
and societies become more stable.
It's a win-win for everyone.
It is.
The report also stresses the need for sustainable development policies
Okay.
that consider the interconnectedness of population,
Uh-huh.
the environment, and economic growth.
This means promoting sustainable consumption and production patterns,
Yes.
investing in renewable energy,
Mm-hmm.
and protecting our planet's natural resources.
Absolutely. We can't have unlimited growth on a finite planet.
Right. It's about recognizing our planetary boundaries
It is.
and ensuring that future generations inherit a healthy and thriving world.
Exactly.
So it requires a shift in mindset
yeah.
from a focus on short-term gains
Mm-hmm.
to a more holistic and long-term perspective.
It's about moving away from the old model of unlimited growth
Okay?
and embracing a more sustainable and equitable model
Right.
that benefits everyone.
It's a massive undertaking,
It is.
but also a chance to create a better world.
It is. And it's going to
Embrace.
require global collaboration and innovation.
So where do we start?
Well,
What can individuals do to contribute to this effort?
the first step is awareness.
Okay?
Understanding these demographic trends and the challenges and opportunities they present.
Right. Knowledge is power.
It is. Once you have that knowledge, you can make more informed choices in your own life.
Okay.
You know, support businesses committed to sustainability.
Okay.
Advocate for policies that promote gender equality.
Right.
And educate others about these issues.
It's about using your voice and your actions
It is.
to create positive change.
Exactly.
And even small changes can make a difference.
It can.
When multiplied across millions of people,
Absolutely.
it's not about feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
It's about focusing on what you can control
Yeah.
and taking action.
Well said.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the UN's population projections.
We have.
We've explored the trends,
Yeah.
implications,
Uh-huh.
and even discussed potential solutions.
Right.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And while we've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
it's clear that this is just the beginning
Yeah.
of a much larger conversation.
A conversation we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely, to our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
We hope you've learned something new.
We hope you've gained some fresh perspectives.
And most importantly,
Feel inspired to take action.
remember the future is not something that happens to us.
It's something we create together.
Exactly.
And on that note, we'll sign off for today.
Until next time,
Keep exploring
keep questioning.
and keep diving deep.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.